Hey you guys, Matt Allen, Tim Little, welcome back to Tactical Bassin and to the final video in our Spring Buyer's Guide series. Today we are talking boat accessories and electronics.
Alright guys, today's video, like Matt said in the intro, is kind of everything boating. We get this question asked a ton, you know, what do you carry for tools or life jackets or this or that? So hopefully this video, it kind of encompasses all into one video and you guys can check out the different stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to start with some tools. A couple different tools that we find really important to have on the boat. Probably some other ones we probably should have in here.
There
too.
probably are some others. That's
like
all right.
Yeah, but I'm gonna start off with these guys right here. These are the Texas Tackle split ring pliers, and these specifically, they have a small tip on them, so it allows you to change out the split rings and hooks on smaller baits. You know, a lot of split ring pliers on the market are just too big for those smaller size 4, 3, you know, split rings, the hyper wires. So these guys right here are a must. And then next, these long, the Raptors, but what's the
long reach pliers? Long
reach pliers. You know, we've used a lot of tools, and I know on my boat, personally, I have a lot of the Raptor tools. You know, the braid scissors, the pliers, these specific long reach pliers. You know, when you start dealing with toothy critters where you don't want to stick your hand down in their mouth, these things come in really, really handy.
Yeah, long reach pliers, you should just always have them with you because, yes, you catch a random toothy critter, you're going to know why you need them. But also, like, you get a deep hooked largemouth and you want to come in from the back side, right. It's just easier to do with long reach pliers to come up through the side of that gill plate and get those hooks out.
Another must-have is going to be some kind of wire or snips, some kind of dikes or something, because we've all had the hook, especially when you're fishing by yourself and you have to cut that hook. I've had to do that a couple different times. Got to have a set of those, and some of the stuff we can link, some we can't. But if you guys are taking notes, everything down below, it will be down in the video description. But if you guys are taking notes, make sure you have a pair of those on the boat with you as well.
We'll link a set of those as well. Some of these tools, these are just like generic tools I'm about to pop open for you. So we won't know how to link that stuff. But we will link a pair of good side cutters. And the rule is never use a hook larger than you have the ability to cut on the boat.
Right. If
you can't cut it, don't fish with it, because it's a matter of time before you end up with one in you and you can't do something about it. We get endless questions about tools on the boat. You guys travel, what do you use for this? What do you use for that? We carry a lot of extra things. So I'm just gonna pop, these are out of my Champion. So I was just gonna pop them open and kind of give you a brief rundown of what I carry in the boat. And they're like every brand under the sun. Some of them are Craftsman, some of them are knockoffs, some of them are a Bic lighter. You know, it's everything under the sun. But just wanted to give you a feel for what I really carry to get me through. So I carry a lighter everywhere. Get all the dust off it, good gracious. Jeez. I carry
antique
a lighter. Yeah, an antique lighter. I carry a lighter everywhere because you just don't know when something's gonna go wrong. We had buddies that we had to rescue on a guy's trip when they wrecked a boat, and because one of them was a smoker and had a lighter, when we got to them at 4 o'clock in the morning and it was snowing, they were laying around a fire. Those boys would not have, they wrecked first thing in the morning and we got to them almost the next morning.
Yeah.
And it was right around freezing the entire time. And they were in bad shape.
Yeah.
A lighter is a smart thing to have with you.
You never leave home without something to cut with and to start a fire with. That's just a kind of a survival deal. But
right.
And a lot of this stuff, like Matt said, we can't link, but you guys want to know what we carry. You know, a lot of it, like hubs and seals and bearings and all that stuff. We're not going to go into all that stuff, but there's a lot to it when you travel. And a lot of this stuff's going to seem like we're overthinking things, but we've seen it. We've been
needed
through it.
Every single one of them.
Needed it, and there's nothing worse than needing a tool and not having the right tool for the job.
Right. 3 or 4 screwdrivers, standard and Phillips, zip ties. I carry, I don't even want to pull them out, but they're giant.
Big zip ties.
They're this long and they're thick. The biggest zip ties you can get. Because if you need a little zip tie, they still work. If your boat trailer's coming apart and you need to hold your brakes in place, Just did that.
Yep.
Big zip ties will hold them in place. I carry a little bit of wiring, just bare wire, because things happen and you need to do a quick splice to get you through. And then Marine Tex. Marine Tex is a product that is a temporary patch job. If you bust a hole in your boat, like drive it up on a stump and punch a hole in it, and that's day one of a 5-day trip, get that boat off the water, clean it up a little bit, slap some Marine Tex on it, and forget about it. Go back to fishing. Is it done right? No. Will it float? Absolutely. Is there Marine Tex on the bottom of every single boat I own? Absolutely. That is just how you keep going. So just carrying a little bit of it is a good thing. And you can get that at every marine store. You can probably get it on Amazon. It's just a product that's wise to have.
Yeah, the wiring stuff. We were on a trip up to the Great Lakes this last year.
Oh, we were on Superior.
We were way up in the middle of nowhere, and something happened with the trolling motor, and Matt had to take it apart and kind of MacGyver it. I made a joke about it, but had to rewire some stuff, and it saved our trip up there on Lake Superior. So you never know, especially the more you travel, things just go wrong on boats and trailers, and you always need stuff.
Right. Basic wrenches. So run around your boat, look at what bolts are on there, get a half a dozen wrenches that fit those things, and just throw them in.
Stainless steel. Make sure you get stainless steel stuff.
Yes.
I made that mistake a couple times where I just bought toolkits, and then you go to use them and it's completely
just a
rusted
mess.
Over. So make sure you get stainless steel. Again, this is all Matt's stuff. These are right out his boat, so I'm not going to talk too much about this stuff because I have my own set. But yeah, looks like a bunch of goodies in here.
Yeah, bunch of randoms. They really are. A little bit of electrical tape, and then here's where we really get into it. The main thing that I carry with me is wiring. So crimps, all the different things that I can need to fix minor electrical problems on the boat, right?
Fuses. You get a bunch of fuses in there.
I've got fuses in there. I pre-make some jumpers so that I can just hop between wires that have a problem. Just some really basic stuff, and then a good set of crimpers. I also carry...
I'll grab these.
Yep. Some rags, some bungees, a ratchet strap, a little bit of stainless hardware, like oddballs, some bolts, some different screws. Just, again, MacGyver is the right word for it. Just the ability to patch things together and keep rolling. And then a hammer. I mean, let's get down to it. There has been 20 or 30 or 100 times that a hammer has been all I needed to be able to stay on the water. You hit something going down the road, your fender bends in and it's now leaning on your tire, it's going to split your tire. Grab a hammer, beat it back into place, and go to the lake. Simple stuff.
These guys right here, I grabbed these out. You always need, especially if you're a boat owner, you always need a prop wrench.
Yep.
You know, it's just something that you have to carry. I actually carry one in my truck and one in the boat just because. And then this guy right here, I can't remember what they call it. I think it's like
a prop stop.
It's a
is
prop
what it
stop.
is.
This hooks on your motor, and when those of you guys that have changed a prop before, you have to turn the prop as you're pulling that wrench down. The blades want to spin, the prop wants to spin. This keeps that from happening. The blade rests right up against that, then you can get that leverage and pop that nut loose. But this is really cool. It's really small. Normally, I grew up having like a 2x4.
Carrying a big 2x4
in the back of my truck or in the boat. But this is really, really unique, really well thought, and it's really easy and small to take with you. But something to change. We're always damaging props or whatever, so you need something to change that prop.
So you just nailed down the last thing, and it's not in here, but I want to talk about it. The one other thing that I carry in my boat, besides the obvious, besides a rope, a throwable, right, the legal things,
right,
a horn, the things you have to have.
Fire extinguisher.
Fire extinguisher. I carry props.
Yep.
I carry, day in and day out, I carry a spare prop for my trolling motor. In all these years, in all these trips, of all the things I've ever hit, I've only needed it twice. I just grenaded 2 of them out of thousands of trips. But I always have it with me because that can stop a trip cold in its tracks. Now, if we are long hauling, I also carry a spare prop for my outboard. Short trips, day trips, I don't worry about that. You know, you sling a blade, it is what it is. I call it a day.
Right.
But for my long haul trips, I will always have a spare prop as well. And that's...
Sometimes two. Sometimes a separate 3 and a 4 blade, depending on...
Well, sometimes you need an elevation prop too, depending on where we're going. So sometimes we've got to carry a 23 or a 24 pitch to get a big boat to break over on pad when we're up high. It's the things you don't think about that make all the difference.
All right, while he's cleaning up the deck, I'll talk about these guys.
Sure.
You know, for years there's been, what do you want to call them? Motor mounts or motor supports,
braces, brackets,
motor bracket, whatever. You know, the long pole that you stick to your lower unit that attaches to the trailer that just supports, takes the weight of the motor off of the transom. I guess transom saver, it would be another.
That is what it was called, the transom saver.
But these guys right here, I have this guy right here. This is the Moto Stop. It's just a solid piece of, I don't know if that's aluminum. But you trim your motor up, pop this on, trim it down. It's just a solid piece that supports that motor, takes the weight off the transom. So when you are long hauling, you're not getting a bunch of bouncing and really kind of jarring that transom. That one right there, that's the new one from DD26.
Yep.
A little bit prettier, a little bit fancier. But yeah, these guys work really well.
Both of these came off of 2 of my boats. I mean, we use them both. They both work great. I couldn't even tell you that I have a preference between them.
Nope. I have this one right here. So.
I used to use a traditional transom saver that goes down and hits the trailer. And I felt like that was a lot smarter because that actually lifted weight off of the transom. Whereas these are just keeping that motor from bouncing. But if you actually watch boats going down the road, the trailer and the boat will move separately, so those can actually do a lot of damage. They can be jarring that motor upward, and these don't do that. So that's why we've ultimately ended up running this style all over the country.
Now, as far as life jackets, this is actually Matt's. You know, we always have additional or extra life jackets in the boat. You know, if we have buddies coming out or wives or kids or whatever, we always have additional life jackets in the boat. We always, I won't say always, but typically for the most part we run the inflatables. You can see this one's been kind of beat up. I don't know what boat this came out of yours.
That came out of my Champ. That one has been through it.
The important thing to check on these is that your canister is always good. You don't want to have to use this and realize that your CO2 canister is expired and it won't inflate.
Right.
You know, they're really light, they're comfortable to wear, they're not as big and bulky as some of the big foam ones. With that said, if you are a guy that likes to make long runs, you know, fish areas that have a lot of stumps and that sort of stuff, you're worried about getting ejected out of the boat.
Or you go fast.
Or you go fast.
Guys.
That's when you're gonna go with the full foam traditional life jacket. You know, there's some good ones on the market. Maybe we'll link some of those too. But if you're looking for something that's lighter, smaller, easier to wear, you know, and always wear a life jacket. Wear your kill switch. You know, that's why we're preaching on these, because a lot of guys don't wear them at all. You know, and
you're more likely to wear this.
Right.
It's more comfortable. You can forget you have it on and just fish.
It's not in the way like that big, bulky. And in my boat, that's what I have attached to my kill switch, is one of those. But if I'm in the kayak or if I'm in whatever, you know, if I'm traveling, jumping in someone else's boat, I just grab this and bring it along with me. It fits in my backpack. But always wear a life jacket, because it's really important when you need it.
Right. Now let's transition over to electronics. That's just sort of things that we keep on the boat that make a huge difference day in and day out. Let's talk Raptors and Talons, and then we'll jump into this whole thing.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of questions. This year, I actually made the switch from Talon to Raptors. Matt still has his Talon, so we get questions all the time. You know, why this, why that, which this, which that.
Right.
So we could talk about that a little bit right now. You know, like I said, comments. We're trying to do these videos to address all those comments that we haven't actually been able to answer. This year, I made the switch to Raptor. I like the fact that they're smart, so they automatically adjust. When I Raptor down, or I pull down and I set my boat up in the position where I want it, as I move around the boat, or if there's wind or waves or whatever, that thing is auto sensor the boat, and it'll actually adjust each side to make my boat sit flat. But before I talk about that, or I guess I should backtrack a little bit, I went with the Raptors because I had just recently made the switch to lithium, which allowed me to have more room in my battery compartment where I could actually fit the pumps, the hydraulic pumps. The main difference between Talons and Raptors are hydraulic, Talons are electric.
Yep.
So depending on if you have the space in your battery compartment will kind of tell you which one you need to go with.
Yeah, now, so what we're talking about, Raptors and Talons, these are shallow water anchors. So these are, if you're not familiar with what that is, these are the things that stick up on the back of bass boats today.
And that's probably the number one thing I get as I'm traveling across the country. What are those things on the back? You know,
right.
We're always getting those questions. What, you know, what are those things? So
yeah, those are anchors, huh?
Yeah. So the Raptors, they pivot. Right, so it's two arms that pivot and go down, whereas the Talon is just a spike that kind of telescopes down straight. So the benefit to the Talons.
Well, why don't you say benefit to, like, what is it about Raptor? Because I know what my benefits are to Talon.
So the benefits, I really love my Raptor. So this is the first year that I've ran them. I ran Talons the last few years. They are strong. Like when I hit that, when I tap that down, the Raptor's down, it literally lifts up the back of my boat. It is so sturdy. It is unbelievable. So very, very impressed with that. They're quiet. It actually has 3 different modes, so I can do slow, standard, or fast to deploy and stow. What else? Besides them being strong,
they're quiet.
Like I said, they're
really quiet.
They're, yeah, I have nothing bad to say about them at all. But very, very stable. So quiet, quick, and stable. I think that's the main keys.
So I stayed with Talons. I've been running Talons for years. The biggest reason that I run Talons, there's a couple of reasons. One, I needed anchors, right? So I knew that I had a need. The biggest thing for me with Talons is it's actually 2 things. One is my ability to get in and around things, and 2 is my ability to not be detected by other people, which seems like a silly thing.
Yeah.
But it's not. As a fishing guide, I've been a guide for years, and as a guide, people watch you like a hawk. As a person on YouTube, people watch you like a hawk. And as silly as this seems, it's not. I've watched it play out countless times. If a guy is traveling across a flat, people pay attention. If a guy stops while he's fishing, people pay attention. If a guy
anchors down,
drops down and anchors and starts making a cast, everybody comes.
Yeah.
It's just a giant flag that says, here they are, and everybody pays attention to that. Talons look the exact same whether they're up or down. It's just stealthier. I can be cruising and stopping and fishing, but I can drop my Talons and hold position, and the guy 5 casts away can't tell that I've done it. He has no idea that I'm set up on a piece of cover specifically trying to catch fish. And it's just, from a guiding standpoint, or as a tournament angler, as a guy who's trying to protect something that he needs day after day, that really makes a difference. Right. It really does. And then the other thing is I have my Talons on the swivel bracket, so I can go back there, plop an arm up, step on the bracket, and fold my Talon down onto the deck of the boat.
Flat, yeah.
It makes it a lot easier for me if I'm fishing docks. I can lay them down flat, and I can get in and out of docks really easily. I can go under overhanging things, and that maneuverability is key for me. So that's why I stayed Talon, at least for now.
Yeah, and with my Raptors, I can kind of do the same thing. I don't tilt them forward and lay them flat, but I can deploy them halfway down so they're the same height as my cowling. And I'm not going too deep. As long as I'm not shallow where they're actually sticking into the bottom, I can deploy them, you know, down just enough that they're the height of my cowling and I can get under docks and stuff. What else? I had something else I was going to talk about. There's only been 2 times since I made the switch. There's only been 2 times that I wish I had the Talons. and it's only because of sheer depth. My Raptors, I have 10-foot Raptors, which is great 99.99% of the time. But 2 different times I was in water that was like 12 to 13 feet. And prior to, I ran the 15-foot talons. You know, being out there on Clear Lake, it's a natural lake. You could be a mile offshore and you're in 14 feet.
And you could stick it.
You could stick it. So if you are a guy that needs that additional 5 feet, or a guy that fishes in that deeper water but want to be able to shallow water anchor, the talons are for you. But if you're a guy that's 10 foot or less, those Raptors, man, they are solid. The brackets, they are so... I don't know if
they're
you
beefy. I've seen them. They're beefy.
They're solid. I mean, I just got back a 2,600 mile road trip, and those things are as sturdy and as strong as they were the day that I put them on. I'm really impressed with the brackets. Really impressed with the strength, the quiet, the speed, just how strong they are. Really, really happy with the Raptors.
All right, I'm going to shift gears because otherwise we're going to go for 2 hours here.
Yeah.
Let's talk electronics, and we will try to keep this brief, although it's a giant category. We're going to run through the electronics that we run on our boats. We run Humminbird. That's what we're about to talk about. That said, in the video description, there should be enough space. We're limited, but there should be enough space. We'll link you our favorites from the other brands as well at different price points, you know, equivalent to Helix or Solix, similar price point items, so you have a comparison. But Humminbird is what we run, so that's what we're going to explain.
Yeah, we made the switch several years ago with side imaging and down imaging. We felt that Humminbird had the best side imaging and down imaging on the market. And once you kind of familiarize yourself with an operating system, with a unit, it makes it hard to switch and run different things. You know, they all have different operating systems. They all work differently. But we were very, very impressed with the side imaging, down imaging, 2D sonar, and we still are to this day. You know, the Lake Master chips are phenomenal. I don't go anywhere without the different chips, with the being able to change the water level offset. I mean, like I said, this could be a 45-minute video just on these. But with that said, once we dove into the Humminbird, you know, with the 360 and the side imaging, the Solixes, the Helixes, now here comes forward-facing sonar, right? We didn't want to have to run a different black box, or we didn't want to have to run a different unit and learn all that, because what's special about the Humminbird stuff is the one boat network. I literally can control everything from my graphs. I can see my motor stuff. I can control my Raptors or my Talons or my 360, my Ultrex. I can control my Ultrex. I can spot lock with everything. Works together. Having the same family, if you will, there's a lot of benefits to that. I can control my trolling motor from the back. I know you as a guide could be sitting down controlling the front of the boat while your clients were up here. But again, we can go on and on and on about that. But it was... Once we knew 360 was a no-brainer because it was the only thing on the market, and it was a game changer, right?
Right.
I hate to use that word, but it was, you know. And now going with the Mega Live, now with that, you know, my boat, I run a Solix 15 up front, and above it, I actually run the Apex 13. I ran the Apex 13. It's a smaller unit. It's a higher detailed unit. Actually, it's an HD screen, so it's a clearer screen than the other two. The other two aren't bad, they're great, but this is a full HD screen, and it has HDMI in and out, so now we can record off it for teaching purposes. But I got that solely for running the 360 and the Live together. That is what is really special. So now on one screen, I don't need a second brand or whatever. On one screen, I literally have my 360 where I can see, oh, over here at 11 o'clock, there's a stump 30 feet out. I take my Mega Live, I aim to it, I see where my cast is, and I make it. So using those two together has been amazing. Now, the only other thing about electronics, I know I'm probably rambling.
You're doing great, just roll.
Matt and I mainly run Solix. I don't want to speak for him, but for me, we run Helix on some other boats.
I run Helix on the Jet.
And your wife has Helix on her boat.
Yep.
And I have one on my kayak. With that said, Once you get used to using a unit with a touchscreen,
it's hard to go back.
It is really hard to go back to use keys and all that stuff, because I'm used to like touching screens, 2-fingering, blowing up the screen, waypointing, all that stuff, just boop, 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 really quickly. Then you try to go Helix and you're like, okay, which button was that? Okay, no.
Right.
And it's just hard. So for me, I went all Solix. I have a Solix 12 in my console. That is what I run my mapping and 2D, and out the side I have a 15-inch Solix that I run side imaging, 2D sonar, and down imaging, the 3 different screens, so I can see everything on this on the 3 screen. And I think Matt is flip-flopped. He does the 15 in the dash,
I have 15 in the dash,
and 12 out the side. It's all preference. Up front, I think we run the same thing as well. But yeah, it's just a preference. If you're used to the Helix and the simplicity of it, the quick keys and all that stuff, that is great. Like I said, for us, the touch screen, getting used to that and then going back, it's hard trying to retrain your brain, you know, how to do everything.
Yeah, it's definitely easier to use. So like if you're going to go Helix, it's easier if they're all Helix.
I would say they're better plug and play. Like a Solix is more of a computer. You have to kind of tweak it, but once you tweak it, man, it's awesome. Super clear. I mean, you guys have seen the pictures online, the side imaging, the down image, it's just really, really clear. But it's a little bit more adjusting.
Right, just user friendly. Like, hey, pop this on the boat, go fishing. Right. Helix is phenomenal.
Yes.
For just like a weekend. Granted, half the elites are on Helixes, right? But I say a weekend angler because what I mean by that is the guy who just wants to get a unit and have it work and not have to worry about making setting adjustments to adjust to depths. For that guy who just wants it to be good all the time and not to have it be perfect for a specific thing, Helix all day long. But yeah, as soon as you add a touch screen into your mix, it'll drive you nuts. Every time you have to go back, right. You're like, okay, no, I need to be all touch screen now. Right. So that is what we use. We'll link them down in the video description. Obviously, we'll link comparable units from other brands as well, because not everybody uses Humminbird like we do, but that is what we use, and we absolutely love it. Hopefully this video answers a lot of questions for you guys. Everything from why we always link the exact same set of split ring pliers to why Apex suddenly showed up on our boats so that we could actually export what we're seeing on the screen.
Yeah, it's really hard to sit there with a camera and try and film stuff, and you got reflection and glare and everything. So that is why we switched out the Solix and went with an Apex, because that HDMI out, now you can export that video and it's crystal clear in there. It's just a lot easier. So for us,
and we say that, you guys will see it eventually. We haven't even added that into our content yet, but that is why we've done it, and that will be coming.
Yeah, and you guys have asked numerous times about a Mega Live video. We've implemented it in a lot of our videos. Showed you guys some cool stuff. Showed you a bait ball with some bass blowing up through them and everything. But we're still learning. We want to get this thing dialed before we start teaching it to you guys. But so far, it's been amazing. There's a new update out that it made it even clearer. Been, like I said, that using this paired up with that 360 has been leaps and bounds better. I mean, it's made me so much better at making exact casts. You know, a lot of our casts that we make are wasted casts. Right. So now you can, instead of making 20 casts, fan casting, now you can be like, oh yeah, right there. Do. You know, and it's just, it makes you a more efficient, better fisherman.
Yeah, it really does. All right, guys, with that, we are going to wrap up not just this video, but our entire first annual Spring Buyer's Guide series. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We hope we answered some of those underlying questions that we hadn't been able to answer in our much larger Fall Buyer's Guide series. We hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, let us know so we know that you want this to keep rolling. Starting with the next video, we will be back to normal, as scheduled, regular let's go fishing content. We'll get back out on the water and get to it. If you guys enjoyed this one, if you enjoyed this series, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.